Hello and welcome back to Rooted at Badger Rock's virtual workshop series. My name is Forrest Smart. I'm working the camera right now, and we are continuing on with our Native American Heritage Month workshop series. Today we are out in Tomah, Wisconsin, over at Whirling Thunder Farms, and we have Hinu Smith with us today. Hinu, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself really quick and what you do?
Good afternoon. I'm glad you guys made it down safely through the snow and blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
My name's Hinu Smith. I'm with the Hoocąk Nation Department of Agriculture, and I am the first executive director of the department. It's a new department, so we just finished our first year of operation, and now we're entering our second year as an official department.
Awesome. Yeah, and I met you a few years ago back when I worked with John Greendeer through Health and Wellness. Yeah, Health and Wellness Center, and I was an intern for him. But we also met you back in last spring when we at Rooted did our land acknowledgement. And through that, I wanted to kind of get a little bit more information from the tribe to see how we could help out through our organization. But yeah, can you just tell us a little bit about that time when we helped you out, or when you helped us out?
So I won't take credit for that. I know you were working with the Hoocąk Nation with our president, who's the president at this time, and some of the other language staff to create that land acknowledgement. And I think it was in Hoocąk as well. Prior to that, yep, we were slinging boxes during the pandemic. And more recently, we were able to collaborate at our Wisconsin-Dells County site when some of the staff from Rooted came up and helped with some weeding.
And we've also been able to coordinate some food drops at the Madison or Hoocąk branch as well. So that's been really fun to be able to be involved with that. But yeah, can we just talk a little bit about what your position is right now and how you came into it?
So we have elections every 2 years and 4 years. So we had a new presidential election this last year and a half ago, coming up on 2 years. And so when we have a new president, the new president appoints their cabinet. And so as part of that changeover process, I was appointed to the Department of Agriculture. And so that's how I came into this position.
Nice. And what were some of the previous positions you held before this?
I was coming right out of Indian child welfare, working as a case manager with our Indian child welfare program at our Hoocąk Social Services Department. And I did that for a couple of years. And prior to that, I was an elected official as a District 1 representative on our Hoocąk Nation legislature. And prior to that, did a stint at social services, but over the years, I've been in various capacities. So working with Hoocąk language preservation, working in the health department with diabetes prevention, with what is now called the health and wellness program. But we were the precursor to that, operating a competitive SDPI grant to prevent diabetes in high-risk populations. And now that's evolved into this ongoing programming that is within the nation, making impact across the tribe. I always try to choose positions where I can empower people and community.
Awesome. So with your title as the Ag Director, what has been your kind of goals for this first year?
Well, being a very small department with a small budget, really it was just to build capacity. And that means, increase staffing, increase knowledge within the staff, and get equipment. And so we did that. We still have a lot of room to grow, a lot of room for capacity building for sure, but we went from 3 positions to 6. And we had one small, like 44 horsepower John Deere tractor. We now have added to that. We've got 2 tractors, 120 horse and 130 horse, and numerous attachments to go with that and trailers to pull that. A couple of trucks. And then we also have 2 walk-behind BCS tractors with numerous implements there. And then those are held in enclosed trailers. So we were able to build up our equipment this last year and increase our staffing. It's not enough, but it was a substantial increase. It was wonderful growth, so we're very happy to see that. But we can definitely see the need for this continued growth year after year. We also have a used combine that was given to the tribe from UW-Madison, and that was a combine that we had in the field last year that harvested 10 acres of Indian corn, or Wankshik. So we have that. That's under repairs right now. It's an old, we call it Old Trusty. Some people call it Old Rusty, but Old Trusty helped us out last year, so I call it Old Trusty. And it's a smaller combine, but we have that as well.
Awesome. And you mentioned you kind of grew a really small team from 3 to 6. Who's all on your team, and also what farms do you oversee, or what lands do you oversee?
Sure. We started with the executive director, myself, the ag division manager, and the research and education division manager. We hired a young lady she's a tribal member who had just graduated from Kansas University as our ag research and education division manager. So she'll be building that out. And she actually came to us the year prior as an intern through WITCAC, which is the Wisconsin Tribal Conservation Advisory Council. They had an internship program, so she was an intern with us, 50-50 with us, and shared with NRCS. So that was her exposure to the nation's ag programming, and that was her desire to it was her goal then to come back after that. So she graduated and joined us first as our agronomist and then moved into the research position. Do you want names?
Sure, we can shout them out too.
So Selena Hall, welcome to the team. So we're very, very happy with having her on board. And then we have Ryan McClure, who is our food sovereignty specialist. And he's new to the team in May, June, transitioning from warehouse work and equipment, machinery and production, numbers, to coming into agriculture, where the hard work looks a little bit different. We're not pressed by, numbers and output, but we have other types of pressure to be aware of. So he's been a really key member of our team. And then, so that was the food sovereignty specialist, and then the community education specialist. We had a young lady who was working with us. She was doing a wonderful job, but she ended up taking a permanent job in another location. So we were sad to see her go, but we're bringing on a new person in a couple of weeks to fill that spot. And then the agronomy position is open because Selena took another position. So we're bringing on a new person next week as well to be the agronomist. And so that person has, years of experience working with soil, equipment, and things like that. So we're looking forward to that addition to the team. Is that 6? Did I name all 6?
I think so.
Okay.
So, and then what were the 2 main sites that you and your team are working at?
So for this year and last year, our main sites are Whirling Thunder Ranch, which is where we're at now in Tomah, Wisconsin, and our Sauk County satellite field, which is across from our casino in the Dells area.
Nice. And what were some of the crops you were growing at these locations?
So in Tomah, we had 1 acre. You can see that behind me. That's about 1 acre there, and that was divvied up into smaller areas. And so about 1/3 of that was vegetable production, and then the other 2/3 there was a variety of Hoocąk corn and pumpkins and various cover crops. We probably did anywhere from 10 to 15 or 18 cover crops at both sites. And so one of the cover crops was a pollinator blend. So we really wanted to attract pollinators to the field. And then just different types of cover crops so that we can address it. Basically, it was a trial. It was a trial to engage the community and show that different types of plantings can accomplish different things. So if you want to amend the soil, maybe you can plant this. If you want to create more, drainage, you can plant that. If you are dealing with weed pressure, you can plant this type of plant to help snuff that out. So we're running cover crop trials at both sites. But again, at this site, we have, which is out of my view, we have about an acre or maybe slightly less of a sunflower, a variety of sunflower. And that one came to us from a gentleman that started our seedlings for us this last year. And he gifted us a sunflower that is indigenous to northern Mexico. And that tribe is called Tarahumara, but they call themselves Raramuri. Excuse me if I'm not saying them right, but I think I am. I think I'm close. And so we grew those sunflowers this year because they were gifted to us. So we wanted to make sure that we're having that connection. And then we also have another field on the north side where we are growing another Hoocąk variety of corn. And that one just there wasn't a whole lot of production. It was growing really well, but because we have really good soil here, our weeds do really, really well too. And so they just kind of overtook that field. So we didn't get a whole lot of corn out of that one.
Awesome.
So I guess that's the site. So I'm sorry. Then the Sauk County satellite field, we had a 4-acre plot, and that was a third of an acre of vegetables, and then more cover crops there, 15 to 18 types of cover crops there. And then in another field adjacent to that, we had a 10-acre field that we planted in a high oil content sunflower. Don't ask me the name of the sunflower because it's something like X8325, something like that. But
Yep.
it's a sunflower that is very high in oil content. So that is a good candidate for cold pressing to make sunflower oil. And then we had a 12-acre lot also adjacent to these other 2 spots where we did, it wasn't a Hoocąk variety, but it was another variety, or a rainbow flint of Indian corn. So that's 12 acres there. So those were the 2 grow sites this year.
Wow, it's a lot to take care of in such a small team too.
Yes, hence some of our weeds taking over some of our growing. We had issue with weeds taking over some areas, and potato beetles in the dells, and squash bugs in the dells.
Yeah, definitely a lot to take care of, and not a whole lot of manpower to do it. But just hearing about all these crops that you're growing, all this food that you're growing, what's kind of your mission as the ag department director?
We want to be able to get good food into the hands of our people. And so just always exercising sovereignty and food sovereignty. We really want to get people connected to healthy food, and we want to be able to empower people with knowledge and hands-on experience. And so it's not just about growing food, but it's about working with people so that they can take charge of their own lives and growing what they want for their families. So we want to work with them to teach them if they want to learn, if there's something in particular they're requesting to be taught, we can do that. But then also we want to be good students as well and learn what we can from the community, because we realize we do have a lot of community members out there that are doing this work every single day. And so, we want to have this reciprocal relationship of learning and teaching, but we always want to engage the community. And so that was one of the purposes of having the various types of cover crops, was to have a demonstration field so people can come in and learn that, you don't need chemicals if you have, a weed problem. Perhaps planting different types of grasses or cover crops can help snuff that out, or using different types of practices can help, keep the weed pressure down, or planting certain items so that they're amending the soil, and then you can crimp them down and plant into them as a way to address weed pressure and not have to use chemicals. So we're doing those demonstration trials at both sites. Well, we always want to engage. It's always about engaging the public and trying to, entice people to come into the field. We had the sunflower field. We had I have pictures of some elders out there playing in the sunflowers and the stalks, and it was really fun. And then different people just went out there and took pictures, and we just feel like agriculture is so important, and it really can be the catalyst to anything and everything.
Right.
So we really want to push that.
Nice. Yeah, I guess just from your first year, you kind of explained a lot of it already, but was there any other big highlights or from this season, I should say?
So big highlights, yeah, certainly, getting staffing and equipment, that's a huge important um, benchmark. But also we had volunteer days, and in May we had a lot of people come out from the communities, not just the tribal community, but even the non Hoocąk community. People were coming out into the fields to help with planting, weeding throughout the season, um, at the different volunteer days, which was our way of trying to harness a little bit more muscle into the field to help with
Mm-hmm.
some of the projects. But it was also intended to engage the community and provide training opportunities. So we actually had Tom Bryan from Madison come in and teach how to put in drip irrigation. And so that was really, it was on a rainy day, and we're low on staff that day. But we actually had that opportunity for anybody who came that day. They would have learned how to do drip irrigation.
Mm-hmm.
We had the insect ambassadors from Madison come in. So thank you to Hannah McIntosh for setting that up, which is a group of PhD students, and they came in to the field in Wisconsin Dells and actually went out, with their nets, catching bugs and identifying, pollinators and pests that were in the field. That was a really good learning opportunity, and these are things that are happening on volunteer days. So that was really fun, but just a lot of networking is happening. A lot of collaboration is happening. We're working really closely with WITCAC, Great Lakes, WITCAC, which is, again, it's the Wisconsin Tribal Conservation Advisory Council, GLIFC, Great Lakes Intertribal Food Coalition, RPI, Rural Partnership Initiative. There's so many acronyms, I can't even keep them straight. Research Forward, but a lot of different relationships at the University of Madison and the Extension Office and the various colleges and groups within. So having that relationship, those relationships and those resources really has been critical. Hence, we now have a combine, a used combine that we're able to use to take care of our crops. So those are some really big highlights.
Awesome. And then, yeah, we're right around December time, so kind of close down the gardens and a lot of the farms right now. Just kind of thinking back on this season, what are maybe some hopes for next season or things you want to do different or anything like that?
Yeah, so we're also partnered with SASCAP, which is another grant out of that came through the University of Wisconsin, and so we're on the team lead with that, and so we're working on different projects. So that one is working on wild rice project, maple syrup rice, and then crop production. And so we're hoping to expand that further. But out of these different programs, resources, funding sources, we're looking at equipment sharing as a potential. So right now we have, all these acres, right, and Indian corn that we're growing. Well, we don't necessarily have a place to process that and dry it and clean it like we need to. And thank goodness, because of our partners in Madison, we were able to have that done last year at Arlington. So they dried it for us, cleaned it. It did test. They also tested it, which it tested positive for a mycotoxin that is not. You don't want to be consuming that; it can impact health. So they cleaned that multiple times to make sure that that was a really healthy seed coming out of there. But the equipment, we don't necessarily have all the equipment and infrastructure yet that we need. So we're working on that. So we need like grain dryers. So hopefully, these relationships we're talking about, that shared equipment, like a grain dryer. What else do we need? We're putting up high tunnels, which they should be in today or tomorrow. Doesn't look like today. We're going to have 3 large high tunnels delivered here to this site, and those will come in at 96 by 30 feet. So the equipment that we need for that, a post pounder, skid steer. So we have the skid steer. That was one of our new equipment pieces. But getting different equipment that tribes can share is going to be really important moving forward. And then just different, tribes having different pieces within the food chain so that we can all enhance what each other is doing is something that we're really working hard on, particularly within the GLFC group, to try to really build up and strengthen the Native American food system and the food infrastructure within the state, and even the Great Lakes area is what we're working on. So a lot happening, a lot of goals, a lot to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just anything else that's like really cool going on around here? I know you said you had some future plans for Whirling Thunder. What was some of those as well?
Well, we're looking at doing additional plantings. So we want to keep the sunflowers. We want to keep, of course, the Hoocąk varieties of Indian corn and other varieties of Indian corn. We're going to keep the vegetable production. We're going to move the vegetable production out of Sauk and into Whirling Thunder and just have it consolidated at one site, and then expand that, because we're looking at doing a CSA pilot project for next year, for two sites locally, and then get all the kinks worked out of that, and then look to expand that later. So we're preparing for a CSA garden, but we also want to keep on our target. We're always looking to what can we do to get into the tribal elder food box. I think that's a really important benchmark for any tribe or tribal producer to strive for, is to get something into the tribal elder food box. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and it's not just symbolic, but it's also because that helps bolster the infrastructure and everything that's happening with food sovereignty and everything that's happening in Indian country and Wisconsin. But getting something into the tribal elder food box, what happens is that is working to create direct line access to markets. So a producer that sells into the tribal elder food box program, that's all they have to do. They're growing and getting that ready for pickup and distribution, versus having to go to, say, a farmer's market and sit for 8 hours a day and try to hit their sales numbers that they want. So this creates that direct line market access and gives families more freedom with what they're trying to do with their time and finances. So that's a benchmark that we want to have. And plus, it also, if you get something into the tribal elder food box, you're impacting more people. So the box goes to 400 elders a month, Hoocąk elders a month, but 2,000 elders across the state twice a month. And so really getting something in there, you're able to impact more people. So that's really important for us to hit that benchmark this next year. What was your question? What are we doing?
Yeah, just some more of the cool things. I know we were talking about
Sunflowers.
Like sunflowers. And
so we have that 10 acres of sunflower, and that's a high oil content seed. So we'll be looking to get that into testing for cold press oil. If we don't get it this year, we'll be shooting for it next year. So we're looking at product development. So sunflower oil, and then that byproduct from being pressed can be ground into a sunflower flour for baking. So that's something that we're looking at doing. We're looking at value-added products as well. So the corn that we have harvested and are harvesting, we're looking at potentially turning that into hominy through our traditional practices. And then if that works out well, our goal is to get that into the tribal elder food box. So keep our fingers crossed on that. And then out here on this site, we're looking at different grow sites. So we're going to do a perennial garden. So where can we have our strawberries and rhubarb and asparagus and things like that. But then also maybe a medicinal garden where we can get some nice plants out there for people to utilize. But then we also want an herb garden. And so if we can grow out a lot of herbs, this year we had herbs in our produce garden here, but we just didn't have the manpower. We just didn't have enough staffing to really do as much harvesting as we needed to. So the basil, got harvested, but a lot of it didn't get harvested and it bolted. So we really want to be able to have that soft infrastructure so that we can have access to our foods year round. So if we have an herb garden, we can dry that and prepare that and store it away for winter use. So we'll be looking at soft infrastructure like food dehydrators, maybe some freeze dryers, but we really need to be able to have a place to do that. So we're looking at potentially building out some of our different locations to be able to handle that type of activity.
Sweet. And yeah, you kind of want a little bit more help for some of these projects to I think we kind of talked about maybe some training programs of some sort. Anything more
Yeah,
about that?
so we do have a grant right now, and we're in the first year, the planning year, and then we'll have 2 more years of the grant. And that will be to have a farmer training cohort program. And so we'll be looking at working with tribal members within a specific region. So that is dictated by the grant, and that's the Mississippi watershed, and they spelled out which counties fall within that. And so that farmer training program, we're developing the syllabus now and identifying who will be the instructors for the different components of that. But that training program, we want to graduate 50 people, so 25 people in 2 classes. So one will be in 25 and one will be in 26. And definition of farmer is, conventional farmer, backyard gardener, food forager, people who are tapping trees, trapping, fishing, et cetera, or those who aspire to be. So even if you haven't done this, but you have a great interest in getting into this arena, we'll be looking to enlist those folks next year. We'll be training on soil health, plant health, seed saving, connecting them to resources like WCAC, NRCS, different resources out there, USDA, and we'll be helping them if they want to bolster their portfolio. Maybe they want to learn grant writing or managing their books or writing a business plan. We'll be able to offer different trainings to kind of hit these different tracks.
Wow, it's amazing. Got a lot of big plans coming up in the future.
We're
Sounds like.
busy.
Yeah, I guess just I think you said a lot about what you do in your role at the ag department. I guess is there just anything? We'll start wrapping this up pretty soon, but is there anything you just kind of want to leave with, or kind of let the audience know about?
Well, we are going to have 3 high tunnels that'll be operational in the spring. So we'll be also having that space to grow out plants as well. So we're planning that out now. What is that going to look like? So maybe it'll be a lot of tomato production in one, and maybe it'll be companion planting in another. So we're getting that figured out now. But we'll always be looking for more interest and more engagement from the community. We did apply for an apprenticeship pot of funding. So we'll be hearing more about that in December when that's awarded and what that dollar amount will be. So pending that in the 2025, hopefully early in the year, we'll be looking to hire an apprentice on a part-time basis. So it's not going to be a year-round job, but they'll be helping with the planting. They'll be helping with planning out the gardens, planting, maintenance, harvesting. They'll be learning, food safety for how to harvest in the right way so that it can be placed into the CSA mocks. So we're excited about that, but we'll see.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that'll wrap it up for now. Yeah, I just wanted to say a big thank you, Hinu, for taking your time out to come meet us and have a little discussion talking about your role and all the work you and your team have been doing this year and the past year. But yeah, I think we will end it around there. And I just want to thank the audience for coming in and viewing another edition of our virtual workshop series. And we will catch you again with another one. Thank you.
Thank you.